Hello, everyone, and welcome once again to the third episode of Remember Me, the stories of our babies. And for the first time, you can actually see my face. And I've also got a wonderful mum here with me today. And she's actually going to be one of the hosts now. So, I'm going to pass it on now to the beautiful mum who we've got on today. Can you introduce yourself?
Hiya, I'm Chelsea and I am Eli's mum. So Eli was stillborn in December 21. So yeah, here I am to talk about him and hopefully break the silence.
Absolutely. I'm just so excited for us to be speaking together, and especially obviously off of the back of us doing the Instagram lives where you spoke a little bit about
Yeah.
Eli, and it was so good to just hear all the wonderful things about him. But now we can go into more detail and also get more mums on. Do you want to talk about some of the stuff that we've got planned, like what kind of things we'd like to, because obviously I've done the introduction before, but I think after we've had our conversation, we thought it's also a good platform to talk about other topics around baby loss.
No. So I think when Eli first died, I listened to quite a few podcasts and it did help me to sort of validate my feelings and makes you feel less alone, So, and there's quite a lot of topics like around baby loss that's important to talk about. And I think beneficial to other mums, especially who are like early on in the stages of, their baby dying and the grief. And yeah, so I think if we'll cover quite a lot of topics, just around baby loss, the support we've had or not had, like the feelings that obviously come with baby loss. Because I know when Eli died, I felt like I was going insane some days. I don't know about you, but the thoughts that I was having, I was like, yeah, am I normal?
Yeah, no, same. I guess a good question actually for you to start off with actually is when I did the introduction, I spoke about what got me here in the first place. Obviously, it's Myla,
Mhm.
but like I think it'll be good to find out like why you think a podcast is something that you've decided to do. And you've done so many things in memory of Eli. So it'd be good to like pinpoint some of the things that you've done
Yeah.
and also talk about how it also led you to think that a podcast would be a great continuation of what you've already been doing.
Yeah, no. So, like I said, I'd listened to quite a few in the early days and I did find it really helpful in my healing, to say. A lot of the things that the other mum sort of spoke about, it really validated how I was feeling. And, there was something that come up and I felt so much guilt for it that basically, when Eli was born, I was unsure about whether to still use his name. Obviously, it was always going to be Eli. But I just had so much guilt for months and months. And it was literally when I listened to another podcast and the mum said exactly the same thing about her little boy, about his name. And after I heard that, I thought, oh, right, amazing. Like, I'm not a nasty, horrible person. Like, it's just literally because at the time, obviously, you don't know that you can still use the baby's name, right? Like, we wanted Eli's name for so many years. And it was Dean's favourite name. So Dean's my husband. And I was just like, oh, you know, we won't be able to use it. Like, but then obviously as time goes on and I've got his name everywhere and I still speak about him every day, but obviously at the time you don't know stuff like that. So yeah, no, basically just to help other people really. And, even if I can help one person, then that's good enough for me.
I agree with what you're saying, like in terms of the guilt. And I think right off the bat, like when I gave birth to Myla, they asked me, do you want to see
Mhm.
her? Do you want to hold her? And I said, absolutely not. Like, I didn't want to be connected in any way. And like,
Yeah.
I felt so guilty. And I've heard of some mums as well who like, they never got the chance of taking pictures and doing all that kind of stuff. And they feel bad afterwards. But there's only so much you can do because like, you're not expecting to give birth and then your baby's not going to be there.
Yeah, no, you actually you say that Dean done exactly the same. He was, the midwife was like, "Do you want to meet him?" And he was like, "No, no." Like he freaked out, and I was like, "Yeah, no, I do." But obviously, when you're in, that you don't know what to expect as well. Especially when you know that they're not alive. You're like, "Well, what?" what are they going to look like? You get scared, like,
Mm. I wanted
obviously.
to ask you because you've got this wonderful picture of Eli, right? Where he's got a dummy in his mouth.
So, I don't know. Right. So obviously, when he was born, his lips were quite dark, right, because of the blood flow. And it was really triggering to me, right? So I already had the dummy in a dummy clip. Like when I say I had everything for Eli, I had everything. um, so I had the dummy in a dummy clip already in his hospital bag. Um, and that's why in fact, it kind of makes me sad really, because most of the pictures I've got of Eli all got his dummy in, because when he had it in, he just looked like he was asleep. You wouldn't tell. And every time like it would fall out, I'd be like, oh, put his dummy in. Cause I just couldn't, obviously his lips were dark and stuff. So I just didn't, yeah, I just wanted the dummy in sort of thing. But yeah, no, that's why I already had it.
I love that you thought of that though, because I wouldn't have even thought that you could do that. And like, I think it looks, I get what you're saying though. Looking at Milo's lips like that, I'm just like, oh, I wish the pictures looked less like that.
Yeah, no, the bereavement midwife actually said, "Oh, that's a good idea." I've not seen that before, like where but the dummies in the baby's mouth and that. But yeah, no, I just think it because it's sort of I don't even know what made us, what made me put it in his mouth, but it made him look more alive, if that makes sense. It just looked like he was sleeping, bless him. So yeah, no, that's the reason behind that one.
Yeah, no, that's amazing. I think incredible for you to think of that, especially on the like I think as mums, right? Obviously now that I have my living child after Mila, like I realize that the mother instinct is like, oh, you're always trying to fix or solve a situation, like you're always thinking ahead and you'll just instinctively do that naturally. And I think
Yeah,
like that's also what you've done for Eli. Like it naturally just came. I'm sure you weren't thinking, okay, I need to get it just probably came to you in that moment.
yeah, yeah. No, it's true. Yeah.
It just shows the mothering instinct. And so you've done loads of stuff. Like you did the petition for Eli. How soon after giving birth to him did you do
Probably
that?
about 6 months, maybe, or maybe a little bit after. I can't really remember. Obviously, he's gonna be 3 soon, so it's all sort of. I think the first year was just like one big merge.
No, I hear you. I hear you. I mean, I ran away from the country. I went to Brazil at like in April, and I just needed an escape. All the stuff that I'm doing now in relation to like baby loss and stuff, and being so outspoken, uh, I could never have done this so early in my grief. Like, I'm even surprised I'm doing this now. Do you know what I mean? Like, I've grown and changed so much, and it's like I'm just trying to hold on to anything in which I can have closer to her. Yeah, so like some of the topics that I think would be quite good for us to talk about is things like the early griefs. What were those moments like?
Yeah.
Talking about relationships with parents, with friends, with like partners, having our partners on here.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. That would be good. Yeah.
One thing, or and religion as well, or spirituality. Like I've never been religious, but I think it's good for us to speak about that as well because like obviously some people are so religious and like that knocks their faith
Yeah,
out.
do you know? So I've never been religious, and then obviously after Eli died, I was like, no, 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 like I couldn't believe anything because I was like, if God was here, like if God was a thing, why would innocent babies be dying, right? And I think it does sort of cross most people's minds, right? But after, so obviously I've got a living child now, Dakota, who is a year. When she was born, actually, we started going to the church, and it was a bit of a for Dean. He was going every Sunday. And for him, he said he felt so much closer to Eli in the church, and it really helped his grieving process, And obviously, after we got Dakota, and we ended up all getting christened, the three of us. So yeah, when Dakota was 3 months old, yeah. But it was really, and I say to Dean, like, I mean, we haven't been for a while now, but it was such a transformation for both of us, like how we was even at Eli's funeral, we didn't have any like religious say anything. And then, yeah, to go from that and then all three of us sort of getting christened, it was like a big, big change,
Wow. Yeah. Yeah, I've never heard of that actually. Like, well, I'm sure there's many stories or stuff like that, but that's really interesting. All I know is I've never been really religious, but my family are Catholic because in Portugal it's got quite like a Catholic
Yeah,
thing. And I remember like when I was laying in bed in the hospital, I was already like imagining what tattoo I wanted of Mila. I knew I wanted a handprint. I knew I wanted Simba inside, but the Simba that Rafiki drew on the tree very
yeah, yeah. Which is on
and
Eli's bench, actually, that exact
right.
carving. Yeah, yeah.
I love that so much. I love how much we connect as well.
Yeah,
Our children definitely brought us together. There's
yeah,
no doubt about
100%. Yeah.
that. But I remember like a line came in my head. And the line was, I'm going to write underneath her hand. It's going to say, I entrust her spirit in your hands. And it was just really weird. Like, I was like, that's what I want to write. Like, I've never heard of that before. And then when I Googled it, it was like the last thing that, according to the Google search, the last thing that Jesus had said before he was sacrificed, before he, eventually died on the cross. And like, I don't know, just there was something so eerie about that. Like,
Yeah.
my daughter essentially before she died, that's what I thought, not before she died but after she died, that's what I thought to write. And I also did a lot of church going, never went to church before, but my church is, oh god, I have a whole story behind this. Okay. Spiritist church, have you ever heard of that before?
I have, yeah. Yeah, I've heard
No way. When did you hear about this? I've never heard of it in my life.
it was after Eli died, actually.
How did you come across it? I want to understand if it's like similar.
I was looking into like spirituality, medium, stuff like that. Any sort of spiritual fair. Is that the same as you?
Oh my God. So remember I said to you, and I spoke about the book in the last podcast, the Moving Beyond, right?
Yes, yeah.
And as I was reading that book, I was probably only like on the sixth chapter or something like that. I wasn't that deep into it. And I was driving to get my hair done, and I've always driven to that same location to get my hair done. And I wasn't even thinking about the book. I'd only just started reading it. So I wasn't even that deep into it. She hadn't even started talking about mediumship yet. She was still like talking about how first she started feeling ill. Like it was about her life. It wasn't really about
Yeah,
mediumship too much.
yeah.
But she did say she used to get visions when she was younger, or she used to see people when she was younger. Anyway, so I'm driving now and I just decide to look to the left for no reason whatsoever. And I see Spiritist Church. I've never heard Spiritist in my life. So I parked up just before getting my hair done and I Googled it. And then all these things started coming through about mediumship, about when you go to a service, they'll have someone on stage or on the platform or whatever, and they'll be reading to you about a message from your family that comes through. And I was like, this is what I want. This is what I need. And I was like, Mila literally made that happen because I've driven here so many times. Like, I've never seen that in my life. I've never in my life come across this.
Yeah.
I ended up going to one of the services after her funeral. Oh, and the woman just said, I can't even remember exactly, but I feel like what she was talking about was about Mila, but I can't even remember what it was anymore. But
You need to write this stuff down. Yeah, we did go to like they had like a medium at this spiritualist church that we found. But to be honest, it was like about an hour, and obviously there's so many people there, we didn't even get a look at them, sort of thing, because they sort of just described someone and there was no children that came through, so definitely not for us.
yeah. And children, from what I hear from the medium that I went to, it's really hard to get, especially children who are stillborn, because they haven't yet properly developed a personality. So it's hard for them to come through.
Yeah,
And that's what he was describing to me. He was like, I can't really tell too much, but this is what I'm getting at the moment, and it's this and it's that. But yeah, it must be difficult to decide
yeah,
that.
yeah, definitely. But
Like,
yeah,
what are some of the things that you've enjoyed about meeting like other parents and stuff like that? Like,
I don't. Well, it's a hard one because obviously when Eli first died, I was just like, well, you know what it's like, completely. You feel like alienated, right? And you're like, am I like the only one this is happening to? And it's like the world's like ended, right? You go out to hospital, and everyone's just going about their day to day, and you're like, how do these people not know what's just happened? Like, Eli's dead. Like, what's, everyone's walking around like nothing's happened. And I couldn't get my head around it. And obviously, it's not spoken about, right? Baby loss. It's just not spoken about. I mean, so I actually posted on Facebook he died when I was in hospital with him still, because I was like over my due date, way over my due date. So I was getting texts, oh, is he here yet? Is he arrived yet? So I put a post on Facebook saying that, he's died, blah, blah, blah. But yeah, and it was only when I done that and I sort of, I sort of saw other people and they started telling me like their stories, and I didn't really meet anyone local to me, like other parents who have, gone through like child death. But I found a lot of obviously women, as you know, through Instagram, the old Lost Mum community. And they have been like a complete lifeline to me. Like, I don't think I would be here today if it weren't for that support network, I don't think I'd be here, or I would be like a shell of myself now if it weren't for that community. Because, there was one mum, and she actually reached out to me, and her little boy, similar, story to mine, full term. She went to the hospital for reduced movements, and he ended up, it turned out he died as well. But he was born probably he died 2 or 3 days before Eli had died. But obviously I gave birth to Eli 2 days after I found out he died. So he died on the 11th and I gave birth to him on the 13th, but she had her little boy on the 9th. So she actually reached out to me, and we was like each other's lifeline. I mean, I live in London, well, on the outskirts, and she's from Birmingham, but we would text each other like in the night. You know what it's like, you can't sleep, right? And I mean, I'm a rubbish sleeper anyway, but Dean sort of, slept quite a lot, if any more than what normal, right? And so yeah, we'd just be texting each other. And I suppose as well, like, obviously you've just given birth, your body doesn't know that your baby's died, right? So your body's expecting to be up in the night to, do the feeding or whatever. But yeah, and we was just texting each other all the time, like in the night time, like literally she was like my saviour. It is crazy. We've met a few times, I've got to train up to Birmingham and stuff, and she'd come to London. But yeah, no, I literally I don't think I'd be here if it weren't for them,
Yeah, no, absolutely. And actually, now that you're speaking and talking about that, it kind of just reminded me of like me as well. So I had no one that I knew immediately around me who'd
Yeah.
had experienced a stillbirth. However, my husband's cousin, his girlfriend had also had a stillbirth like a couple of, like in March. So March, no, was it March? So early 2020, right? 2022. And I was pregnant at the time. And I remember like at that point, we were like, oh my God, don't talk that you're pregnant. Don't say anything because, she's just lost a baby. You don't want to be insensitive. Da, 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 da. Don't ask any questions. But at the time, she would be very like, when I first met her, she'd be like, oh, do you want to see pictures of my baby? And I was thinking, huh? But I didn't knock it. I was like, yeah, absolutely. Like, go ahead. So she showed me like, she was in Brazil, by the way. And the care there is shite compared to what we get here. So all she had was pictures or videos of her ultrasounds. So she sent us that. She sent us the heartbeat. And it was just so cute and stuff like that. But obviously, until you've experienced that, you have no clue. And I remember I said the most insensitive shit there. I was like, oh well, at least you'll know for next time, girl. You just say nonsense. I don't think no one will ever like, people can be compassionate, empathetic, but until you're there,
Yeah.
like you just won't know. As soon as it happened to me, oh my God, I said, give me her number right this second. And I'd only spoken to her that one time around when was it? Maybe October. So we had no connections like that. And I didn't have her number. So I was speaking to her through Robert's number.
Mm.
So I was like, give me her number. And I kept being like to him, give it to me now, give it to me. And then he was like, no, like, and I kind of get it as well. Cause like, that could be triggering for her as well. As I spoke to her, I mean, I can't say it was a relief, but I felt protected somehow. Like, I felt like,
Yeah, like someone else who gets it and will validate how you feel, right?
oh my gosh. And then we spoke I mean, we speak all the time. We spoke, oh my God. And to think as well, like her level of care was really crap compared to mine. And people around her really tried to shove down the idea of like, forget about it, move on. Even her partner, he wasn't like that as well. Like in the beginning, he was very much let's honor our child. But then when you have family around you who are constantly being like, no, you have to move forward, you have to do this, he has become brainwashed like that as well. And so passing it on to her in that way too, which is unfair, right?
Yeah, yeah, definitely.
It's so important to have people like that.
Yeah,
Oh,
I don't think that, I mean, I'm really grateful that Dean's sort of always been sort of what's best for me, like whatever I want to do, right? So, but yeah, I mean, he speaks obviously about Eli all the time, but I don't think, if he was like, oh, let's just move on, it must be really hard as a couple, as bereaved parents, to like just go through such different like mentalities, I guess. Like, yeah, it must be really hard. So do you still speak? You say you still speak to
yeah,
her
yeah, we
now?
still speak a
Yeah.
lot. Yeah, and I guess like we have to also remember there are so many like little intersections around baby loss, right? So many
Mhm.
different people who experience it very differently depending on their circumstances. Like we have our partners, for example, and some people don't even have that, or the relationship
Yeah,
broke down just before, like,
exactly. Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
yeah,
Or even after
yeah,
it happens quite a lot, doesn't it? Because that's the thing. I mean, your baby dying, it's like it either makes you or breaks you, right? As a couple, even not even just as, your like relationships with your husband or whoever, friendships, that it literally does. It makes or breaks them.
yeah, absolutely. Even your relationship with yourself,
Yeah.
obviously we know that, but like in the sense of like you start to second guess like, oh my God, is he gonna leave me now? Oh my God, like I'm such a disappointment. Oh my gosh, like I couldn't even keep his baby. All these kind of crazy things. Like I read back something that I wrote and I was like, like what was I thinking? What was going on in my head? Like,
Well, that's
well,
the thing. You blame yourself, don't you? I mean, you can't help it as a mother. Like, they're in our tummy, right? So it's like our responsibility. But obviously, it's not our fault. But obviously, when you're in the depths of it, I mean, there are still times now where I do blame myself, but and I sort of just snap myself out of it. Like, no, I'm being ridiculous. Like, it's not. But yeah, like in the early days, I was like, oh, does everyone blame me? Do they think it's my fault? Do they want anything to do with me anymore? Like, it is hard. And obviously, it's the reactions you get from other people. Like, I had people just ignoring us. Like, we used to live in a flat. And it was literally like EastEnders, right? So everyone knew everyone's business. There was a WhatsApp group. If anyone parked in a visitor bay, it was like drama. um, but there was a couple there that lived there. And it was literally, I think it was like the first time we went out. I think we went out for a walk or went to the shop or something. And they literally saw us and just turned around and walked the other way. So because they didn't know what to say, right? That old chestnut. But the worst thing is though, as well, like obviously that's happened, and I'm like, well, they think it's my fault. They don't want nothing to do with me because I killed my baby. Do you know what I mean? Like, that's the instant thought that went through my head. And obviously now I know it's just because they were like, oh, what do we do? What do we say? But it's just, yeah, it's not nice.
how do you feel about people who don't know what to do or what to say and then like just turn the other way? Like, what's your,
It's hard because it's like, I don't know what to say, right? So they don't say nothing, right? But nowadays it is so easy to say something. Like especially, this is not even in person, right? all you got to do is send a text message saying thinking of you, a few love hearts, like here if you, do you know what I mean? And I just think the amount of people that I got that from, oh, you know, months and months down, like, sorry, I didn't get in touch. I just didn't know what to say. I just think that's such a shit, excuse my language, excuse, because you know, type it into Google. It's really not that hard what to say to a bereaved parent. Like, it's really not hard at all. And they kept using that. I had that so many times. And I just think, yeah, just look at Google. Like, come on. It's really, yeah, it's just frustrating. So frustrating.
I completely agree. To me, right, I don't actually care if certain friends didn't, especially if I'm not like that close to you or whatever. I don't actually. It's family that really just gets on my tits, right? And I think, okay, cool. You couldn't say it before. Cool. Now, though, especially when you can see that there are parents who are very vocal about it, like you're seeing me posting this, you're seeing me posting that. Come on, come on, get a
Mm-hmm.
hint. Do you know what I
Yeah,
mean?
yeah, I know it all the time, all the time. I mean, to be fair though, like I say that, like I had people ignoring me and stuff, but I also got messages from like school friends who I haven't seen or spoke to in like 10 years, like message me, you know, and I just think if they can do it, like you say, why can't the family? Why can't whoever? Like, yeah, but no, to be honest, my direct family have been really good. I've been lucky with them, but it's like, you know, like the cousins and like the extended family, and they're like, oh, I just didn't know what to say, and I'm like, just show up. Like that's all you had to do. Like Eli's funeral didn't come, and I was just like, all you had to do is show up. You know, you haven't got to say anything. Just show up. Just
Mm,
be there. But
mm. Did
yeah.
you organize Eli's funeral?
Yeah, so it was done. It was half and half. So it was done by the NHS. I kind of just invited everyone because it was my way of introducing him to the world, right? So yeah, it was like an open sort of invitation to whoever wanted to come and pay their respects. But yeah,
As in, like you
so
did like a Facebook invite and said whoever wants.
yeah,
Or
yeah, 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 yeah. And I put like the date and like where it was and stuff like that. Yeah. To be fair, he did have a lot of people there, a lot, you know, and it was like I wanted everyone to wear like color, and I wanted like loads of flowers. I just wanted it to be as beautiful as possible for him, you know. I mean, to be fair, some of the flowers were amazing. Like they'd had like Lion King in the flower arrangements and stuff like that, like the soft toys and stuff. But yeah, no, his day was really special, really
oh,
special.
that is so beautiful. Me, I
Mm.
just couldn't like when they asked me if I wanted to organize it, I said no, like I can't do it. Um, but it felt quite
Mm.
nice. Like they asked me, "Do you want to choose music?" The music, was like,
Yeah, no, that's exactly that was my exact, because I don't know if it was the same for you. They literally asked me either I think the day I gave birth to him, they were asking about funeral arrangements, and I'm like, what? I can't arrange a funeral. Like I've never arranged a funeral before. Like what do I even do? So yeah, but no, it was the same. So we had like picked the music, and I got a Dove release as well for him, which was quite nice.
so what did you
Yeah.
had to obviously order this, right?
Yeah, so it was like a company, and I think we had to go to the like the funeral directors, and I just saw like a leaflet in there, and I was like, oh, and then you just like ring them up and book it in. But yeah, we had them at our wedding as well to sort of commemorate Eli. Yeah,
That's so nice. Oh yeah, because you had your wedding just how many months after?
6.
Wow. Oh my God. Wow.
Yeah, we booked it in Feb. So he died in December 21, and we went. I think we booked it um middle of February, because I remember on Valentine's Day we was actually like looking at the reception where we was going to have a reception. So we literally booked it, yeah, and then it was his funeral wasn't until the 22nd of February, 3 months after he died.
That's the same with Mila. Hers was in February. Why
Was
though?
it? So she was born in December as well, right? I know with See, she was after Christmas though. What date was her funeral in
He was born
February?
29th of December and the funeral was the 9th of February.
Yeah, so it's probably about the same time because Eli was born on the 13th, but his was on the 22nd of February. But so they done a post-mortem on him, which took like 6 weeks. But then I asked to see him after that, and I wasn't aware or told that because it was booked through the NHS, I wasn't allowed to go and see him, which I didn't know. So obviously I sort of kicked up, and then they had to take him from the funeral directors back to the hospital for me to go and see him at the hospital. And then I thought that's why it took so long as well, because that was another like a couple of weeks delay, because they had to get him sent, from the funeral directors to the hospital, and then they had to get him picked back up again and taken back to the funeral directors. Yeah, it was a lot. And all that time you're like, oh, where's my baby? Like, they should be at home with me, right? And then you just think of like, oh, they're with strangers. Like, I'm a really bad parent. I've just left, that's what I kept thinking. I've just left my baby with like complete strangers. Like, that's not right,
Yeah. Yeah. I didn't want to have a post-mortem because they had already told me that I had a placenta abruption.
I didn't want one. But they was sort of not forced. Well, they was encouraging me quite
Has that got
forcefully.
anything to do with them trying to shift the blame?
I don't know. I think, to be honest, even they were shocked because I had such a good pregnancy. Everything looked fine. Even when he was born, I remember the midwife saying, everything looks perfect. Like, I don't know what's happened. Like, he's perfect, the placenta looked absolutely fine. Everything looked fine. And it was only when he had the post-mortem. And that was another thing actually as well, because you have to sign to do a full post-mortem or like one just on like the placenta. Anyway, so we went for the full one because obviously I was like, I didn't know what happened, right? I was like, what if I do have another one and the same thing happens, right? So, but then when I found out it was all to do with his placenta, then a whole other load of guilt came because I was like, all I had to have done was get his placenta done, not the full, post-mortem, because everything was absolutely fine. It was just the placenta that was the issue. And it turned out the placenta was too small for him, but it also had, I'm going to get this name wrong because I do all the time, vascular something or other on the placenta, right? And it's basically where the placenta's damaging itself and where it's overcompensating to work, it ends up giving up, right? So,
Not to cut
yeah,
you, but there's a mum that I always speak to, really good friend, like that's like family now. And
yeah,
she's done a lot of research on the placenta. It's the one that I told you who signed your petition and everything. And he was saying,
yeah,
because you were overdue, and I've heard already
yeah,
now that the
yeah,
placenta, when you're overdue, the placenta is overworking and it starts to shrink. So
yeah,
obviously it's going to be smaller
yeah.
if he's overdue.
Well, so it was only when I was pregnant with Dakota, I I went to a different hospital, and he was saying, so I had like a consultant and stuff, and he basically said that I had gestational diabetes, and I didn't because I was tested with that with Eli. I didn't have it with Dakota either, and I was tested again, obviously, with her. And I went to a rainbow clinic in Manchester, like run by Tommy's, the baby loss charity. And I saw Professor Hazel, and I went all the way to Manchester. Like, I have like more local ones, but the Manchester one like focuses on the placenta. And he basically turned around and said that the main cause of having it is gestational diabetes. He said, but there are hundreds and hundreds of other things it could be. But because we don't know, like the hospital's probably just saying that because they don't know, right? And he said as well that the that that happens in the later set of pregnancy, that vascular something or other. And also Manchester, they actually measure a placenta. So that was what my petition was about, getting that a compulsory thing by NHS, because obviously the only reason I was able to do that is because Eli died, right? You can't, you think that they measure the placenta as normal practice. It is the organ that keeps the baby alive, right? But yeah, madness, I know. And he said, so I got it measured with her when I was 23 weeks pregnant with her. And he said that if Eli's was measured then, it would have showed up small then, because placentas, he said, they don't just stop growing, and it would have been small. And he said, like, if that was the case, I would have had to have had him earlier. But I was 41.5 weeks pregnant with him. So I was like way overdue. Yeah. So when I was pregnant with Dakota, I was induced at 38 weeks. I was like, no way am I going over. And my hospital actually wanted me to wait until 40 weeks. And I was like, nah, absolutely not. And then they were like, oh, okay, well, we'll let you have her at 39 weeks, but you can come into the hospital at 38 weeks and just be monitored for the week. So I was like, well, obviously I'm not going to get what I want, so it's better than nothing, right? But I actually had reduced movements with her as well. And I obviously don't know, but I do wonder, like, on a daily basis, if I didn't have her early, would the same have happened to her? Like, obviously, I was advocating for her 100% because of what happened to Eli. When I was pregnant with Eli, yes, I was advocating for him, but I didn't know, one, how common stillbirth is, right? How it's not good. Because I don't know about you, like when I was pregnant with him, all you got is like that, all you could hit, like, what were them things? Is it hypnobirthing? And it was all about, the baby comes when they're ready, blah, blah, blah. Absolute nonsense. And yeah, so I do wonder, if Eli didn't exist, if I didn't have him, and I was pregnant with Dakota, like, as my first, I do wonder if the same would have happened to her, because I had, the reduced movements and stuff like that with her as well.
I think like it just comes down to not be like, they don't educate
Yeah,
us, like, right?
100%.
Obviously when you were pregnant you were saying like all day, but even those hypnobirthing courses, is that something that you had to go out of your way to find?
I found that, but like that's what I say all the time, right? So antenatal classes, they're all about safe sleep, preventing something happening to your baby when they're born. But what about making sure that you're checking for movements? And because like Eli, I had reduced movements with him, right? But he was still moving. It was just less. And then there's that old wives' tale, right? They run out of room. They do not run out of room. But obviously, I believed that at the time, right? I thought, oh, it's fine. He's just run out of room. Like, he was still moving. And then as well, like, you ring up the helpline and they're like, oh, drink a fizzy drink and lay down for an hour. Like, no. What? And then he said that when I was pregnant with Dakota. I was like, absolutely not. I'm already on my way to the hospital, so you've got to put up with me. Tough luck, But the thing is, if she was my first, I wouldn't have been. I would have just been like, yeah, sure, okay, I'll do that.
Absolutely.
And it's like, they shouldn't have to. You shouldn't have to have a fizzy drink to get them moving, right?
Absolutely.
It's ridiculous.
No, absolutely. And the thing is, right, like even old wives' tales that are just like, them, right? Old wives' tales like the back of your hand. But they're like the real education about baby loss and babies in general should be like old wives' tales. They should be something that we know from the moment we even think about conceiving. Like, we should be educated on what is preeclampsia, low fetal movements, and all these kinds of things. Like, get an app to count the movements, know, like, if they're moving too quick, if they're moving too slow, really understand what your baby's routine is. Like, I just think it's so ridiculous that they don't shove that down your throat as much as they should, because that is the preventative work that needs to be done. Like, it's just beyond
100%. Like, in the antenatal classes, they should be talking about like reduced movements and stuff. And why are they saying like you shouldn't have to drink a fizzy drink to get
Yeah,
your baby moving?
yeah. But the worst thing is though, there's literally resources out there that they could signpost. Like if they don't have time, if they're understaffed, they could literally be like, "Oh, download Count the Kicks app, and you can start looking at your baby's
Yeah,
routine."
which
And
I
then
that app I didn't know about until I was pregnant with
until
Dakota. Yeah,
same,
so
same.
yeah, it's I don't know. It is crazy.
It's a shambles.
It is. It is
Part
disgusting.
of me is like, is it part of their goal to like have less bait? Like sometimes you know when you go conspiracy theorists
Yeah,
style.
yeah, yeah. No, 100%, 100%, 100%.
Is it like, is it easier to just have less babies? And, like it's ridiculous. You can literally save a life with this kind of information. And you know what the worst thing is? Okay, cool. So when I was first pregnant with Myla, someone actually approached me. There's this company called Five Times More, because according to statistics, Black women are 5 times more likely to have stillbirths, right? And so someone actually approached me with this resource and said, look, now that you're pregnant, just have this so you know how to advocate for yourself, so you know how to do this, how to do that.
Mm,
And I was like, no, 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 I don't need this. I'm not going to be a statistic. Can you believe that? And this is another thing, like, because we don't know how often it actually does happen, 1 in 4 pregnancies end in loss, we don't think that we will need that. That's why we don't even bother.
I didn't even know there was a statistic. Like,
That's why we don't even bother, because all that's shoved down our throat is, oh, it's fine, it's normal. Everyone goes on to have babies, but most of the everyone that has gone on to have babies has probably experienced a loss in themselves. And the thing is, these things are actually preventable. Some of them. So if it's
mhm,
preventable, let's just learn about it. And
yeah,
like there are resources out there, and these resources should be given down to women
yeah,
as soon as they are pregnant.
yeah, and not be induced so late and like,
Yeah.
yeah, it,
Like I have a friend who's pregnant at the moment, and like one of her things was like, oh, I'm avoiding listening to certain things because I don't want to have that in my head. And I just said to her, I understand, I completely understand, because I was the same when I was in my first pregnancy. But it's important to be educated.
mhm,
It is. You don't know what pregnancy is because you've never had it before. Like I'm not even trying to belittle anyone who's never been pregnant and is pregnant for the first time. You don't know because your body hasn't been there before. You don't know how your body's going to behave. So like just learn. Don't be scared.
educate, yeah. And that's the thing, like, yeah, like, I mean, when I was pregnant with V, I had done everything by the book. Like, I didn't have a sip of alcohol. In fact, no, I did before I knew I was pregnant. And then I was like, oh, I had 2 drinks the other day. Oh my gosh, like, how awful. And I was like,
Sushi.
oh, I'm a veggie. Nah, not for me, not for me. And do you know what? One time, at one of my first appointments, when I told her I was veggie, she was like, you be careful. It's like, educate yourself, hon. But yeah, no, and I just think, but yeah, I done everything by the book. I took all my vitamins, you know, I done nothing wrong. And I was like, even to the point where not having, like, like the pill, potato pill, you're not supposed to have that. Did you know that?
No.
So any ground vegetable,
Okay.
because no, so right, if you have potatoes when you're pregnant, you're supposed to peel the skin off or not eat the skin because the skin's been in the ground, and like if a cat has, yeah, it's all to do with that. And like literally, I took everything so seriously. I mean, when I was pregnant with Dakota, I was like, whatever. Oh yeah, coffee. I didn't have like, I was like having my recommended amount of
Same.
coffee, and in fact, that's the one thing I said. Right, the day he died, or sorry, yeah, the day I went in to be induced and found out he died, I was like, it's my fault. I had an extra coffee today.
Do you know what?
I shouldn't have had that coffee, as if it was the coffee that done
Same
it,
thing.
right?
Same thing. So the morning before or the night before that happened to Myla, I was making eggs, boiled eggs, and I was like,
Mm,
oh my God, this egg better be cooked properly because if it's not cooked, something might happen. And then it happened. I remember being in the hospital bed being like, oh my God,
it was
is
the
it the
egg.
egg? Is
It
it
was
the
the
egg?
egg.
And they
Yeah.
were like, no, darling, it's not the egg. And I was like, it's definitely the egg. But get this. So last night I was on Instagram just scrolling, and something came up on my feed that I was so disgusted by. So disgusted. And you see what you've just said? You went everything by the book. I didn't want to share or save it because I was just like, I'm not going to give it too much engagement. But this woman literally had a video where she wraps her arm around and then is doing something weird, right? And then it said at the top, it was like, oh, I still blame myself for when I did this when I was pregnant. And when I read, so she was a meth addict, right? And the whole thing was she was doing it while she was pregnant. But the whole like, and we had healthy babies, healthy pregnancies. That happens to us. Do you know what I mean?
Hmm. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I remember the day I came home. There was a news thing literally a couple of days, and I remember sitting there watching it, and it was about a newborn baby that had been left in a rubbish bin. And I was like, I would do anything to have my little boy in my arms right now. How come she like deserves to have that baby and she's just gone and done that? Like, oh, the anger, oh, you can imagine, right? I was like, what is wrong with
No,
you?
I thought the same. Same similar happened to me, and it was actually near the hospital that I had Mila. Um, but I think someone must have said something like, "Well, you don't know what the situation could have been a rape, could have been trying to save the baby. I don't know, but still, you wanted your baby so much, and you couldn't have your baby." We've had a lot of chats,
Yeah, we have. I don't even think we've even covered all the topics we were supposed to cover.
but we'll have more like specific topics and stuff like that, and we'll be interviewing, which will be great. I
Yeah,
like
yeah.
to wrap up by saying like a resource for people, like it could be a book, it could be a film, whatever. Is there anything that you've got that you'd like to mention?
I'm going to say Coco, the film, because I watched it the other day and it was amazing about how, because obviously it's so hard for people sometimes to talk about Eli and stuff. But yeah, no, I love that film.
I spoke about it last week, and then this week you're saying definitely watch it, and you're someone who hasn't watched it.
Yeah, no, it's really good. And that song, yeah, watch that. And it's quite a nice, like, uplifting film as well. So yeah, it's not all like morbid and stuff, which it's about death, right? So you think it is, but no, it was good. And like the way they honor their dead is just amazing.
Honestly, Mexicans really go all out with their
I know.
relatives.
And now I'm like, I need to learn about this. Well, I was listening to your podcast and I was like, right, I need to get salt. I need to get this. I need to get that. We need to have a chat about what we need to get. Okay. You need to let me know.
Let's do it. Oh my God. On the 2nd, we're going to organize something.
Amazing.
And we can do it like virtually.
That would be
we're
amazing.
okay. Thank you guys so much for listening in. It's been great. I've loved having Chelsey here. Now we're going to be doing this together, and it's just really exciting. Thank you, Eli, and thank you, Myla. So much love to you. Love to everyone, and goodbye.